Hello everybody, I'm Simon Hall, the creator of Ultimate Glorium, and I'm going to give you a demo game of how to play the game, and I'm going to do it by refighting a famous historical battle. This is the Battle of Sabis from 57 BCE. It's Julius Caesar against the Belgae, the Nervae tribe in particular. And it's quite a famous battle which Caesar survived, but was quite traumatic in that they advanced this way and started building their camp, and actually were attacked by the Nervae out of the forest and were only partially deployed. So we have an interesting situation where the two legions on the side here didn't manage to get their armour on, so they had to fight unarmoured just with shields and swords. So these have been classified rather differently to normal legions without armour, so they're not protected, whereas all the rest are protected. The very high quality legions are here. There's an exceptional 10th legion there, his own, and Caesar is on this side, and then you've got the massive Nerva here. Pacto is a small version of Ultimate Glorium. It feels very similar to the big version. It's just that a unit, in inverted commas, or a toga tactical unit group as we call it, is made up of a file, whereas actually in the main game it'll be made up of a bigger group of bases, so like this. So roughly speaking, you can take this number of bases and triple it and make the big game, and you play on twice the dimensions, so 4 times the area on a 6x4 for the big game. But the system is entirely the same, so I can show you exactly how the battle works from this. So it's a colour driven system for those who've know nothing about it, and every general gets a set of colours. So I'm going to deal them some cards, and they'll get a different number for their different quality levels. We have 4 grades of general: legendary, talented, competent, mediocre. This is Caesar relatively early in his career, so we've classified him as talented. So the generals here, there are going to be 2 sub-generals with 3 cards each, and Caesar with 4. So I'm going to deal those first. And we also have a set of small discs that you can use on the tabletop, which are colour-coded to the desktop. But for Pacto games, I quite like the cards because you can just leave them off the edge of the table. The Gauls here on the other side. If I can just locate my armies for a minute, put those aside. We have a talented general here, who's the commander, and we have 2 competents here and here. So, there we have it. That's what we need. Now, let me quickly give you a guide to the game. I pull up a QRS. What happens now is, for all of the action in the game, you have one table, and this is the table that matters as a general. It gives you the colours required to do different types of moves in different phases of the game. The phases go charge phase, then we have a shooting phase, then we have a movement phase, and we have a fighting phase, and then we have an end of turn phase. So you do different things in different turns, and different types of troops in terms of their manoeuvrability need different cards. The red are the best, then the yellow, then the green, then the white, then the black. A black you can do nothing with except move directly ahead if you're a general with the troops, because the general can upgrade 1 card each time if they're actually participating in a move. But as you can see here, this says drilled. These are the most flexible troops. These are all drilled, the Romans. They need very little to do moves. They never need a red. There's no reds at all. You know, it's always the colour or better. So the worst they need is a yellow. Most things they can do with greens. The tribal Gauls and Nervae over here can do very basic things with whites, but actually need yellows and reds to do most things. So that's how you bring the command friction in to the different troop types. The second command friction is, of course, with the generals. The generals could have anything between 2 and 5 cards each. So if these Roman generals were dreadful generals and were all 2-carders, even though these are drilled, it wouldn't be easy to manage the army. So the system gives a great amount of flexibility to alter the amount of command and control friction for different troop types and different command structures. And actually part of the skill is designing your army well, and we have an online army builder for that that's very handy with drop downs where you can play to your heart's content. And we have 650 army lists free online at www.mortem-glorium.co.uk. So browse away, find your favourite army and do a design, and all the instructions are there. So we're ready to play. So I'm going to take the Nervae as active first, which means they're going to get the first move in this turn. A turn in Ultimate Glorium is not yours or theirs, it's shared. So what you'll find is this is a very interactive game. Just to give you the tabletop, we're going to consider the river here as rough going because it was quite easy to get across. These are forests and are difficult going. That's a marsh is difficult going. This is rough going brush, and this is rough going fields, and this is a gentle hill. This is the Roman partly built camp, so it's not fortified. They haven't finished it. And this is the Nervi camp over on this side. So I'm going to start off by moving some of the Gauls forward. The way it works is you pick a colour to move a unit. The tug in this case is one file, and then you can add to it to actually move a further block of troops. So you can convert it into a block, and a block can be sized according to the quality of the general. So a competent general like this could move 3 together. A talented could move 4 together, a legendary could move 5 together. So this is going to be a single move, turn it into a block move, and they are going to, in fact he is opting to do a double move just to get them entirely over the river, and he's going to move 4 for a reason we will come on to in a little while. So there we go, that's the first bit of action by the Gauls. You'll see it's very fast moving and rattles on at a fair old pace. They'd rather fight with their better legions than their less good ones, so we're going to do a double move with these, or actually a block move. I'll do an advance and a block, and those Romans will take them on relatively near the riverbank. There we go. Boom. Back to the Gauls. The Gauls are going to advance with these. That's going to be directly ahead, and that coloured one to make a block. It has to be coloured, it has to be green, yellow or red to form a block. So those guys can advance. They won't quite get over the river in one go. These ones in the middle are the Solduri. They're the most dangerous of all. We'll come back to those when they get into some sort of combat. Okay, I think on the other side we will advance these legionaries. That'll be directly ahead with a white and a green to make it a block move. And the other smart thing in the system is skirmishes, such as these archers here, can always be dragged along by heavies. So they'll go with them. As a counter to that, we're going to bring some Gallic cavalry up. So these Gallic cavalry are going to move 4 because they want to drag these javelin men with them as well. There we go. Bit of command friction there. They didn't manage to get everything over the river quite perfectly, but it's good enough. Back to here, we're going to bring up a double move, and we're going to bring these Numidians into play. They move quite quickly. They move 6 with one go, so they're just going to come here to sit behind the archers. Back to the Gauls. The Gauls here, well, he's a bit limited on what he can do on this side because he's got 2 black cards. So he's going to do 1 black card and upgrade it to white to allow him to go ahead 1, and then make a yellow to make it a block, and that will allow all of these to come racing over the river as well. And they'll take the skirmishes with them. Caesar, seeing that, you can see how the order can be quite interesting when you get into the game, is going to upgrade that to green and use that, and he's going to do an advance with a shift if he can do it. Let's see, he can't. Not quite, because he has to stay outside a certain distance to do very clever moves. So he's going to do an advance with a wheel instead, and he's going to wheel his troops that way just to try and close the gap a little bit here, which is looking a little scary. Back to the Gauls. Well, the Gauls can do a double move with some cavalry. These are their superior cavalry, so they're going to go over there and over there and start to think about putting some pressure on the Roman cavalry, which indeed at this time were also Gallic. And we will do a discard. So this is interesting, so you can throw away cards instead of doing action. This black being useless will discard, he'll discard back, he'll discard back, and ultimately when both sides pass and say I have nothing more to do, the turn's over. So the Gauls now pass and the Romans are going to pass as well. At the end you can discard any cards you don't want, but you can keep any good ones. Nobody's got any good ones left to keep in this game at the moment. You can see how fast things move in the game. We're going to start having charges in turn 2 more than likely. So a lot of things are going to get into action very, very quickly. Romans are going to be in position this time. So card phase, we're going to replenish the cards back to the original numbers. Here we go. There we go. Four for Caesar. 4 for the talented opposite. Oh, lots of black cards have come. That's going to be interesting. Now we're going to follow the sequence very explicitly. The first phase after getting the cards is the charge phase. And in the charge phase, you declare anything that wants to charge. Now, these guys are somewhat impetuous, so you have to pay for them not to charge, which the Gallic commander isn't going to bother doing. He's going to accept that they charge. So both of those are going to go charging in. The Romans will probably sit and let that charge happen rather than do anything else. Everything else is out of range other than these cavalry. And unfortunately, I've got such terrible cards over here. There's going to be a command friction there. And even though the Gauls would probably like to charge those Roman cavalry, they're not going to be able to. So in the charge phase, these plough in. Were there any shooting against them, it would be done now. Shooting against charge would happen now, and then all of the shooting would happen in the shooting phase. But we're going to have an impact, and we're going to have a crunch there. And they're going to stick together. The Romans are active this time. So the Romans actually get to choose which file fights first. They're going to choose this one. And what we have got then is a set of factors. And what's going to happen is we're going to roll these funky dice. And these dice take all the brain strain out of the outcomes. So on them you have skulls, and a skull means kill a base. A wound, which is a half kill, and you put a little marker down, it carries over. An S is for several special effects. Now one of them the Gauls have got is shatter. If they get an S or a skull, they cause a shatter, and that helps their neighbours with factors and makes them do better. It's like punching a hole through a line, and a blank that does nothing. Combat, both sides start on a green, and then the dice you roll depends on who's got the advantage. And the dice are similar to the cards. The yellow one is better than the green, the red is the best of all, the white is worse than the green, and the black is the worst of all. So it's all driven by fighting by file and using these dice, and it takes the strain out of outcomes. Most of your thinking can then go into being a general. So here we go. So in this particular situation, I'm going to use some dice to give you factors. Once you've played a little bit with your army, you'll know these by heart, and you'll never need to refer to the QRS very often, and the rule book very rarely. It's very easy to get the hang of actually once you've got it. These are devastating charges, which gives them 2 against foot. These are impact weapon for their pilum, so that gives them 2. It'll apply to both sides, this. The one we're doing here, those Gauls are nobles, so they are superior, so they're going to get another 1. He's not going to risk putting a general in, which will get him 1 back, because he doesn't want a Roman general getting killed early in the battle. This would be very bad news. So we're going to fight this one, and the Gauls are 1 up. And 1 up, or even, you roll green. 1 down, you roll white. So this is green versus white in favour of the Gauls. Let's see what happens. Hey, look at that, nothing. So that was a dead charge. That's good for the Romans. They've stopped them there. We'll now fight this one over here. This is going to be exactly the same, because we're going to have devastating charger against those weapons. The Gallic general is not going to put himself into combat this time, because his troops he's trying to instruct, so it's green against green. I'll use a small green for the Romans and a big green for the Gauls. The Gauls did a half kill, a wound, so we put a little marker behind there. So that actually is quite good for the Romans, because the Gauls are dangerous in the charge. Once you get into the melee, you'll find the Romans are vastly better in an ongoing melee. So that's stopped the charge pretty well there. We now have the shooting phase. So anything that can shoot will now do so. So they've got a range of 4, so they can shoot the cavalry. Shooting is equally simple. It's a dice for every file shooting, and the basic dice is a white. And that's deliberate because it doesn't have a skull on it, so it's less volatile than an even hand-to-hand fight. You then go up and down if there's something juicy to shoot at, like an unprotected target, or if you're very, very good with a bow. But in this particular battle, these are just box standard average shooters, and these are box standard protected cavalry, so it will be a white dice. And did nothing. When we shoot later with the Numidians, they're skilled shooters, so they would actually upgrade to a green, so they're quite dangerous actually, as they were in this period of history. Charge phase done, shooting phase done, into the movement phase, and this time it's the Romans with the chance to move first. So, I think we will. Now this is an interesting situation. The Romans actually want to wait. They want to see what the Gauls do before they commit. So they're going to actually do something interesting. They're going to discard a black over here and hope that the Gauls will get going. So they're going to do a discard. Over here, this side has got many cards that are rubbish. It's only going to get to go once. So he's going to discard a black as well and hand it back to the Romans. The Romans are then going to see that that's a little irritating. It doesn't give them much flexibility. But over here, they don't need too many cards. So they're going to actually do a white, and they're going to move the archers into that rubbish. So they're going to turn and move one, and the archers are going to go into there, facing the wrong way right now, but they'll live with it for now. Over here, well, we desperately need to get some cavalry up to support here, so these cavalry are going to come over there and provide support there. That's a white to go dead ahead. See how quick it is once you get going. The Romans here wants to keep his yellow and reds for reasons we'll come on to later, and has little use for the green. So actually, we'll discard that green and see if we can pressure them again. No luck, because you can discard that black. Okay, the Romans are being forced into committing now to do something. Julius Caesar now has got to do something over here. He probably wants to wheel these guys into line, so he's going to do a green to wheel and a white to do it as a block move, and he's going to close the gap fairly well over here and do it sort of like so. Good old 10th Legion. And the Gauls are now going to advance. Well, they're stuck. They can't really wheel very much, so in that they're quite fortunate. But he can improve that to directly ahead, so that will be directly ahead. And yellow to make a block move, and he's talented, so he could do 4. So they can only go dead ahead. They're going to do that, but it does mean that they're going to hit the 10th Legion with some fairly ordinary troops, which is quite entertaining. And we are back rolling. I'll just put the forest back, which is probably a little awkward. We're back to the Gauls. Well, the Gauls here would love to get on the flank of these Romans, so they're going to ride 4 and ride up there, which now gives them the situation where they are a little dangerous. And do it like that. They're past the line of their front, which means they're potentially in their flank. The Roman commander was quite canny and held a card back until he could do that, so he's going to fall back with those, which takes away that risk. So that's not bad. And we're back to the Gauls here. And the Gauls here, I've got some interesting bits and pieces. So they're going to actually split. They're going to do a wheel as a group there to try and get these Solduri into a fight somewhere, which is not quite going to work immediately, but they'll gradually get there. So they're going to go like that with one of them, and that will leave them a red behind. Still to go. The Romans don't want to do anything with those. They probably don't really want to do very much with these except consume a bit of space, so they wouldn't even do that because they're fearful of what these might do. So they would pass at this point, and the Gauls having nothing left to do. Oh, hang on, no, the Gauls have still got this red. They'll use that to wheel and go over there and prepare for a big charge. There we go. And that will be the end of the turn in terms of movement. We now have melee, the fighting phase. So we refight these battles, but now it's big advantage to the Romans. Roman will choose to do this one first. These Romans are melee experts, so that gives them a factor in melee. These guys don't have melee expert, but they are superior, so they get 1 for better quality. The one on this side is superior and has better quality, so we'll be on a 2 factors. So this is even, so that's green against green first of all. And this is what's called a supporting file, and its dice adds to this roll. You don't roll it separately, it adds to this roll, and they fight at 1 colour less than we would normally. Normally against them they'd be 1 up, which is green, so they get a white helper dice, if you like, if you want to put it that way, over there. I'm going to use the small ones for them, then I can tell the difference. So it's 2 dice for the Romans, therefore. Oh, that's a perfect result for Rome, and a green for these. An S. So, too late. Shatter last time would have been handy. That's brutal because that kills the base and puts a wound on. And once any heavy unit goes below half strength, it breaks. So that's now below half strength because it's suffered 1 and a wound, so that is routed. And that is a really good result for Rome. I can now show you how morale works in this. What happens is your opponent, when that happens, gets to roll what's called a killer base test against neighbouring things. So they're going to get a dice roll against these and these at the end of the phase. We will come on to that shortly. But first, we have to fight this last remaining combat. Here, they have 1 factor for melee expert, but unfortunately these are the ones who couldn't get their armour on. So the Gauls have got 1 as well for unprotected opponent. So very simple. So large green for the Gauls. Oh, Romans are doing superbly. Killed another one. There we go. Look at that. That now being the end of the phase is when we do these killer base tests, as they're called, for the spread of panic and morale. So the Romans get to roll against these, and the dice that you roll are red if poor, yellow if average, green if they are superior, and white if they're exceptional. These ones are average, so we're going to be rolling a yellow. Killed one of those. Oh, this is going well for Rome. Going well for Rome. And then they get to roll against that one that's nearly broken. And it breaks as well. So this is a bit of a calamity for the Gauls here. And that gives a chance of killing a general, because that unit has lost the base and broken. And that general, you get the same effect. He's stunned, which would mean he would lose any cards, and he gets a free move. He's going to join his cavalry. So a bit of chaos there. That's all spread. Those break. They do a variable distance move to see what happens. So one of them's gone 2 and one's gone 3. You can look that up when you've got it. And the Romans have to pursue. So the Romans, the victorious Romans, pursue them to the edge of the table. Now I'm going to do there we go. Boom. A little bit of chaos. Boom. And that is 2 tugs down against the Gauls. So at the moment in scoring terms it's 4-0 to the Romans. The very end of the phase as well, end of turn phase, you can recover wounds if you've got good enough cards. So this red here is good enough because they're no longer in combat. A yellow would have done, in fact, and they're going to take that one off. So that's another good use of cards at the end, and nothing else. That's turn 2. Let's discard any cards we don't want and keep those we do. So this time you do have keeping of cards, because the Romans in the middle would definitely want to have those yellows and reds for this following turn. And the Gauls are going to be active again. So far so good for the Romans. They're holding on. Julius may do okay. Sorry, that should have been discarded, obviously. So we'll do that. There we go. There. 4 for Julius Caesar, and 4 on the wing here. And here we have it. And we're up and running again. And the Gauls are active, so they're going to have the pack on their side of the table, just to remind me of that, which is what we do in the actual game. So we're up and running again with the charge phase. Well, these Gauls definitely do not want to not charge here. They definitely want to get in. So I see no reason why all of these with things dead ahead wouldn't be charging. And they'd also like to charge the cavalry, the enemy cavalry, because they feel they've got a better chance and it forces the flank. But this one they have to pay for because there's no free charge for those at all. So that's a green to charge, which is the normal card to charge unless you've got a reason for it to be free. In the centre, we have an interesting situation, and I think because we've got a crisis there, they will have to be quite dramatic. They'll have to play a red to stop those from charging. So we're going to stop that one from charging. I'm going to put an S next to it just to remind us that that has been stopped from charging. And they're going to upgrade that to green to charge with the fanatics instead. So they're going to be a bit subtle there and let these guys back off. Over here, we're going to have a cavalry charge. So I think the cavalry are going to have to try and break through. So we're going to have a charge with those, and that's going to go dead ahead. In fact, it won't go dead ahead. We'll have a charge with these that will go that way to hit those Romans. And we'll have a charge with these, which might get some revenge because it's going to charge into the flank of these Romans who got overexposed in their pursuit. Do I have one more? Need one more arrow, but I'll signify it like that so you can see what's going on. But they had to pay cards to do those, both of them. Okay. This is why we mark them, because then you want to be able to resolve them gradually. So this one here, those are going to shoot at those. So the plus for the Romans and the Numidians are now going to get a green dice. Oh, one didn't do anything. And they are going to do a skirmish move, which means the maximum firing will go backwards less than usual. So they're going to drop back 4 and remain facing the enemy. And those cavalry are going to thunder into there. Those cavalry are going to thunder into there, and there's really nothing that anybody can do about that. So this could get a bit desperate down the line here. And in this section, those guys are going to thunder into those. And there's nothing really in the way of Roman charges that makes sense. Actually, to be fair, in the knowledge that one, it wouldn't have done any good because the Gauls would go first. Sorry, ignore me. And here, these are all going to thunder in there and there. And the only interesting one is here, where the Romans don't really want to fight because there's a risk to get run over. But they are facing some rough terrain behind them. So they've got a difficult decision. But what they're actually going to do is they're going to throw javelins and they're going to skirmish away. They're allowed to because they're missile armed. Didn't do any damage, and they only went back 2, which is going to limit them. In fact, they'll only go back 1 because of the terrain. And these guys are going to go, yes, it's enough to stop them for 1 turn, so they're not going to get hit just yet. The Gallic cavalry are just a little bit off them for now. So that buys a bit of time in that particular area. The fight here is going to be rather difficult then. We've got lots of charges going on. The Gauls can choose the first one, and we'll choose this one as it's a flank charge. Flank charges work that if you can get past the line, you get a +4 bonus in the flank, and many of their factors don't apply to the front. So these are average, there's no quality to apply to the front, so they're on factor 0 to their flank. They are on short spear, 4 for charging a flank, and the general wants to cause mayhem, so he's going to go in and make it 5. And what happens once you get better than +3 is you keep going up. So a red is 3 up, a red and white is 4 up, a red and green is 5 up, a red and yellow is 6 up, and a double red is 7 up. So we've got a red and a green here, and when you get to 2 dice, the opponent drops to black. So this is very nasty. Woof! Just about got away with it. They only did a wound. Now that might be okay because they'll be able to turn to fight in the movement phase. This one here is not so bad for the Romans though, because they get their 2 for impact weapon, and these guys only get 1 for short spear. So it's actually advantage Rome there. Oh, kills the Gallic cavalry. Well done that legion. Legion 8, I think. Well done them. Working over to here, the fanatics over here have hit some superior legionaries. This one's going to get a bit sweaty. They're superior and their impact weapon, so that's 3. These guys are superior and devastating charger is 3. So it's green against green, but the fanatics here, you need to do 4 wounds on, you need to kill them all. Large for the Gauls, let's re-roll that. The Gauls did a wound only, not too bad. Oh, a wound each. Again, the Romans have held the charge. Impressive. There we have it. Coming down the line further, Gauls first go. They want to do this one first because these guys are only superior. So, superior impact weapon, if you got it from last time, is 3. I don't need to put the dice down. These are 2. I know very quickly, having played this a bit, that the Romans are 1 up. No effect. And here, the Romans are 2 up because these guys are exceptional. Caesar doesn't risk himself yet. There's no point. Oh, a wound on each. Probably a good thing. And there we have it. That's it. Now. Whew! It's a big charge phase. Shooting phase. These javelins can javelin those with a white. Do a wound on them. They're not in arc yet for these. They can't shoot back because they've only got a 20mm with arc to the side, and that's not going to be enough quite. So they'll have to turn next time to shoot back. These have charged and shot in the charge phase. That's it. All of that done. Movement time, and over to the Gauls. Okay, well the Gauls are now going to start doing things that are going to be a little painful. So they're going to do a move directly forwards with these guys onto the position where they would be on the side of those, which we will come back to later. And the general will go with them. Yes, decision to make there. Romans on the other side, well, probably needing to fill the gap that's emerging here just in case. We might need to do something there. But first things first, these guys need to turn. So they can do a 90-degree turn with a yellow and go like so. And now that's sort of neutralised a bit the problem that was emerging on that flank. Can do that with a green. I like to hold on to the yellow because you could bring that wound off later. Back to a Gaul. Well, there's one red left here, which might be some use, but they'd like to save it in case they're carrying a wound at the end on this unit here. That black's no use, so they'll discard it. As you can see, the Gauls have had to use a lot of cards actually to do some clever charges, so that was tricky. They don't have as much control now. On this side, well, this is the one we need to get moving. They're going to turn 90 degrees, and that way they'll be facing this way, which means they can deal with these guys next time and hopefully clear them out. They quite like to save those. Julius Caesar, well, he's where he wants to be because he wants to recover a wound with those if he can, and he might need to fight with his 10th Legion at this rate. The only last thing that might be some use is whether to bring up the reserve poor legions and plug a gap, or whether to save everything in order to try to recover wounds should they need to. So I'm just looking at that for a minute and thinking. I think what the general will do is he'll move himself to be with that superior legion so that he can hold it together. So there you go. That's a sensible move. And on the other side, the yellow they're going to keep. These reds are interesting. I think what we will do is advance and wheel. So they're going to advance. In fact, they're going to advance to there and wheel at the end like that. I'm going to try and get round the back, and then they're going to save one red. So you see I'm saving good cards at the moment for after the combat. Melee time. Okay, let's see what happens. So if we start in various different places, these are not terribly connected. Here the Romans will choose to align. It's something they have an option to do. They feel that's sensible at the moment. So what we're going to do is fight that one. These are melee expert, but unfortunately they're unprotected, which cancels it out. So it's green against green. So big green for the Gauls. That's broken those Gallic cavalry. Okay. Here they are the other unprotected one. So that will be even, but the general's in. So it's green against white in favour of the Gallic cavalry. Nothing. Not going well for the Gauls on this side. On this one, again, the Romans will take the option to align. And here we have superior against superior melee expert. So the Romans now are one better. The gladius and the sword fencing skills are taking over. Oh, not too much avail though. There's the end of one of the legionaries there. You will find these battles feel fun because you have a fair bit of chaos. They come out very neatly overall, but you will have ups and downs as you go through the battle. It feels kind of realistic. Now going over to this side here, these are superior melee experts, so they are 2 up. So that's a yellow versus white in favour of the Romans there. You can see how quick it is for me because I know the system, and once you get used to your army, I promise you it'll be equally quick for you. Here it's an extra factor up because the Romans are exceptional, so it's a red versus white, but these guys here would have an extra dice and have a black to help. So could get a little lucky and sweaty against 10th Legion. But not, no, the 10th Legion carve their way through the enemy. Look at that, chop them to pieces and right them. There we go in the melee phase. Ow! Let's see what happens now with the breaks. So these breaks, you'll remember, cause morale panic effects, so they're going to cause a what's called a cab test on those again. They're average, so it's a yellow. Roman would roll it. Oh, horrible, 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 horrible. They're losing a lot of troops to cab tests. This is very nasty for the Gauls at the moment. And then we can actually take that off because it can run through everything else. So that's another tug down. So that's 3 down now. Looking messy. Go over the other side, it's 4 down there. So that one's gone. And that one would also cause some trouble here with a yellow on that one. Well, they break. Look at that. The morale effect. Caesar must be yelling at them. Incredible. And it will be a green on those guys. No. Bang. 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Now an easy way to do this, when your army loses half, it breaks. Let's count what's on table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's got 6 on table and it's got 4 broken. So it's going to need another 1 to get to half. It's quite close. The Gauls are nearly gone. This is heading towards a great victory for Caesar that will put him down in history in a legendary fashion. These guys will pursue for destroying their opponents. I'm just rolling for how far the Gauls go. They both went insufficient, so both of the Romans there are broken through and on the way to the Nervi camp, which is actually something that happened in the real battle. There we have that. And end of the turn, we can use coloured ones to bring things off. He can upgrade that to a red, which is enough to take one off if in combat because he's with them. So that recovers those. He's red is no use because he hasn't suffered a wound anyway. He can upgrade that one and save... Oh, hang on a minute. It's a bit closer than I thought. I've made a mistake. That lost a base and had a wound. So that one broke, actually. So there's a bit of excitement on the Roman side as well. I shall put that back. First thing we do there that I've missed is the chance to kill the general. The general is competent, so it's a yellow. No, he's okay. So he can move to another unit. He'll join those. And there will be the same cab test effect here. Yellow against those average Romans. It's okay. They die, and they will pursue forward. 2. Okay, so there we go. The Solduri have done something. 1 down on the Roman side. That's the veteran legion crushed. Exciting. Over this side, there is nothing for him to do with the remaining red. Nothing for him to do with the remaining red. Caesar, however, can upgrade that one. He doesn't need to, they're no longer in combat. He can spend that one on yellow there and do a green upgraded to yellow there. Yellow is enough to take a wound off when not in combat, so that's magnificent. Caesar rallies the morale and pulls back those 2 high quality legions and then discards those 2 cards. We keep these reds and we're ready for another turn. So as you can see, in not many turns this battle is resolving and it's going quite a lick actually. Let's see what we get now, and then it'll be finale time fairly soon, I think. Okay, good shuffle. Misspent youth showing up there. Too much bridge and poker in my youth. Well, I messed that one up. There we go. Nice. So, finally give some cards. There we go. That's Caesar. There we go. Let's see what we've got. Every general survived in the fight so far, which is good. Nobody's died yet, which is a blessing for everybody. 3, 3, 4. That's the set of cards. And then we're just back into the charge phase. Bit of measurement to do here just to see what's in range. I mean, they only charge 3, so they can't get to the flank of the cavalry. Those only need to wheel a bit, so those could definitely charge those, but would have to be paid for. And it's the Romans. Go. So charges. Well, I think we will pay a green to charge with those. There's no charges I can see for the Romans there other than that one, which is free. And I suspect what we've got is we're going to have to upgrade to green to charge that one that way. I'm going to have to pay with the green to attempt to charge that one that way. Okay, that's all the charges marked that I can see. I can't see anything else being worth a charge. Let's see what happens next. So here, they don't really want to end up fighting in rough terrain, so they're going to have to stand and take it. So they will accept a charge there, and they'll just have to fight that out. Over here, as it's the Romans first, they could have chosen to hit those, but these guys will wheel round and hit those, and I'll explain how that works in a moment. And then these guys also attempted to charge around here, so it would end up like so. Boom. A bit sweaty for the Romans there, a bit of a hole appearing also where it did in history. And we fight those out. Now here, what happens here is when one player's got 2 against 1, they can choose which one fights. So they're going to choose that one against that one, which gives them some assistance and some protection. So that's interesting, and I think this time the general, seeing it's all getting a bit difficult, will throw himself in. So that's a superior, devastating charger with a general for 4 against 2 for impact weapon with the pillar. So yellow against white in favour of the Gauls there. Absolutely nothing. Look at that. Extraordinary. And the next thing along as a charge was here. These Gallic cavalry are superior versus average for the Roman ones. So green to white in their favour. Ouch. That's hurt the Romans fairly badly. A little bit of progress there. And movement phase. Let's see what we can do with the movement phase here. Clearly we want to try and clobber those fairly quickly. So the Romans, I've got a desire to do that, but they haven't got any decent cards, so they're struggling a bit. But they should still do it for safety. So this Roman legion is going to play a yellow to line up there, which will be the end of those Gallic cavalry relatively soon if they don't get out of combat. In response, the Gallic cavalry here, the commander is going to save a card. He's going to make sure he keeps a yellow back because that allows him to break off. So they will try and break off from the infantry there. With another one, what he's going to do is he's going to close down on these archers. There we go. I'm going to sit at short range of those archers. Actually, we forgot a shot there, to be fair. There was a white dice there. Yeah, it didn't do anything, so okay. All's good. As you can see, playing on your own, you can miss the odd little thing as you go in the excitement. Back to Rome. Well, clearly Caesar wants to get these legions back doing useful things, so he will turn these round to face the enemy. There he goes, and lead them back into the fight. The Gauls also want to get some troops back into the fight, really, so they will do some interesting things. They'll do a dead ahead with those, and they're allowed to lock to grid, in effect, to give us support there. So they'll do that. That should be the end of those cavalry. the other Gauls, well, may as well turn around some more. Okay, and the other guys, I don't think, well, the other guys will wheel and race off that way. They've got their eyes on the Roman camp now. Off they go. That looks fun. And through. Back to Rome. Probably to protect the camp, we do actually need to start advancing this lot up. So they will do a double move, because a red will give you a double move easily and a green will make it into a group. They can't come within 4, but it does allow them to go a little bit closer, and they can use wheels or shifts. They're going to use the shifts to go and end up there. That looks promising. There'll be a little fit of discarding when both sides throw away blacks to try and force the others to do things, but nothing much more is going to happen. And we're going to be like that at the beginning of the fighting phase. Fighting phase here, it's still green against white. They're actually, the cavalry here are slightly better, and they're going to have an equal, they'd be equal normally in a fight, so they're going to have a white bonus dice off to the side. So probably the end of those Roman Gallic cavalry. Indeed, to a man in fact. So they get destroyed, and there would just be a pursuit move by the cavalry. They went full to 2, and they can stop before they go in the terrain. So there's 2 losses now for the Romans. The Romans are 2 tugs down from their army. If we go back for melees further down here, again they can apply that as the main fight, and this is a supporting file. The Romans have got melee expert, they're superior, and with a general. So it's green against white in favour of these guys. These ones would normally be down against those, normally be a white, so they can only give a black in support. White and the black, green and black, the chocolate roll, that's its nicknamed. A wound on each side. Okay, the grind continues. And now it's the one for the game, which is the one here. The general's going to fight, and that basically neutralises the melee expert, means the cavalry are 1 up. Roman general doesn't want to fight again, it could be terrible if it collapses. And the green does that. And at the end of the fighting phase, they play their yellow to break off, and they go back there, which means that they are capable of charging again, if they so wish. And that stops them getting in any further trouble for a little while. End of the turn, recoveries. I've got a red there, but I don't need it. I got a yellow there, and it's no use, so we'll get rid of this one. But this guy does have a red, and we'll use it to take the wound off the one that's suffering a bit there. And I think rinse and repeat, as the saying goes. Let's do it again. I'm getting to a bit of a conclusion. The Roman camp is looking a bit vulnerable. It's getting a bit chaotic. The real battle was incredibly chaotic. There was all sorts of stuff going on. Let's see where we get to. It's not over yet. Great cards for the Romans here. Bit of panic in the Roman lines. One there, one there. Okay. And this time it's the Gauls. Charges. Well, wouldn't want to. The Gauls want to stay alive here, so they don't want to charge. The Romans do want to finish them off, but have got dreadful command cards over here, so the only thing that could charge potentially is that one, with an upgrade to green. It's a bit risky because of a wound down, but they're going to do it. So they will charge there. We'll have to think about what happens with that in a minute. That could be quite scary. Okay. Other charges. Too far away. Too far away. Too far away. Too far away. Everything's too far away. So that's the only charge. Gauls have got an interesting decision here. They could choose to run away, which won't go very far, but possibly will get them down here in some swampy area and avoid contact, or they could take the charge. If they take the charge, they get an extra +1 for foot charging them, so they will be on factor 2. They will be on factor 3 with the cavalry, with the general in. Oh, that's tempting, but I think the Gauls should wait. So the Gauls are going to run away. 5, normal speed, so they only go 3, so they go there. and those guys race up there. So the Gauls have abandoned this side in the interest of fighting the battle over elsewhere. Shooting, these guys can shoot those, and they're at point blank range, and against skirmishers at point blank range who are unprotected, you get one of those pluses. So they're rolling a green and got an S, and that's no use. Wow. Actually, they get a shot at those. That's quite funny. Oh, okay. That takes the army down. So that didn't work because of the survival of those guys. So that breaks those, and at that point they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on table they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 50%. That means the army is going to break. I'm going to play it on for just a little bit longer because I'm just interested to see what happens. Let's go with this. Just over here, because they would go 3, take those with them, and they would turn round. So we're going to end up something like that. Caesar will be chasing. So yes, actually, if we didn't manage to kill those off, we would have time delay. And actually, as in the refight that Simon Elliott did, these are going to get into the camp. I'm going to do that just to show you what happens, because it's nice to see how a camp fights. We'd end up with that, in fact. And these guys would be right up behind them by the time it happened. And probably these guys would be over there and these guys would be over there. So it would look a bit all over for the Gauls. But just to show you a camp, if the camp was fortified, it gets a +2 for its surrounding palisades. Unless it's got heavier troops and it fights as poor quality infantry. This was an unfinished camp. So if it was attacked by these nobles here, they would gain 1 for fighting poor, 2 for being superior, and 2 more for being devastating charges. So there would be 4 up. So at first contact, it will be this. That's 1 down. I'm going to mark them up. And a camp, if you use a camp, which we generally don't in Pacto, this is for the refight, is a diorama that represents 3 bases. So it breaks on its 4th wound. So you would have that in the initial fight. In the combat, it wouldn't be quite so bad. It would just be poor against superior, so it would be yellow. And these would be average against poor, so normally green. So it would be yellow and white against a white. Another 1. So the camp will be on the brink of going. And there was 1 wound put in. And then it will be all over, because what would happen is they would charge them in the rear in the charge phase, and nobody's going to survive being charged in the rear by the 10th Legion. And just to demonstrate, the 10th Legion will be +2. If we do that, there will be +2 for impact weapon. The Gauls don't get their devastating charger because they're facing the wrong way. It will be plus another 2 for being exceptional, makes it +4. And it will be 4 for charging in the rear, at which point I've run out of pips on the dice and it's +8. So just to give you a little demo, that is the worst type of thing you can ever face, because that is what's nicknamed a deadly double red against a black. Oh, look at that, there you go. So the 10th Legion charged them in the rear and just demolished them in 1 go. There we go. And that would have been the game over anyway. So as it happened, even if this hadn't happened over here, they wouldn't quite have got the camp. Lucky thing, because if you do take a camp, if you're playing with them, if it's sacked, there's a cab test on every single unit in the army at the end of the go, which would have meant, just to work our way around, we'll do it, you would have had a yellow on that, they'd take a wound, they would take a wound, and skirmishes break when they're over a 1/3, so they'd be gone. Can't take those down, but we'll try those. Oh, look, they would have a wound, they'd have lost the base. The one here, a wound, if it was badly damaged, could have broken. These are poor, so these take, well, they really panicked, so they would have lost 2 bases. So it could have caused mayhem. So this would have been a, if that hadn't happened, very, very close. As it happens, it was a big victory for Caesar. It was a huge victory for Caesar, and Caesar has managed to win, only losing 2 tugs. The scoring system in Meg's very forceful and supports dynamic and, I would say, forceful play. Aggressive is slightly the wrong word, but certainly forceful play. You get 2 points for every tug you kill, to a maximum of 10 points. You get 1 point for every skirmish unit group sub that you kill, and then you get 5 for a big win if you destroy the enemy army. So If you sit back and both of you do nothing to each other, you'll get a 2-2. So it really encourages you to try and do damage, which is realistic because you couldn't sustain an army in the field very easily without letting it fight when it came to a battle. It's very difficult to sit there and do very little. So here we have a 15 for Rome and a 4 for the Gauls. So that will be a 15-4 result. So that's a biggish win. Most results you'll find are 15-8s to 15-10s. In the previous refighting, Maximus at Simon Elliott did, the Nervi actually won, and they won 15-6. So I guess it's so what does that make it? That makes it 21-19 for the Romans, marginally ahead in the refight so far. I'll be posting this on the website as a setup, so if you can, play the game, put the results on the forum, and we'll keep track of the global scores, and we can have input from all over the world. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and that's given you an idea of how the game plays. All the best.